Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan, for the introduction. And Carolyn and I are pleased to be here with you today. America is a great country. As we were singing, the land of the free, the home of the brave. America is made up of individuals from all parts of the world, freedom-loving people drawn here because of the words of the Declaration of Independence. All men and women are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Ronald Reagan said those words were a covenant, not only with the people of the United States, but they were a covenant with people around the world. For those who remember the Tank Man in Tiananmen Square, when they stood there, they had a statue of the Statue of Liberty, and they knew those words there. And so those words were, as Ronald Reagan said, not only for people who live here at this time, but people throughout the world. As co-chairman of the Human Rights Caucus, the bipartisan caucus with Tom Lantos, we have worked hard to deal with these issues with regard to freedom and freedom of religion and freedom of worship and freedom, fundamental freedom around the world. In North Korea, I was original co-sponsor with Senator Brownback and Congressman Chris Smith for the North Korean Human Rights Act. And in my bill last year, we funded the human rights meetings that were held in Seoul and Brussels and the United States to bring about not just attention, but to bring about freedom for the people of North Korea. In Vietnam last year with Congressman Chris Smith, we passed, with my support, the Vietnam Human Rights Act legislation to have freedom and democracy in Vietnam. And we ought not. We ought not grant MFN or PNGR to Vietnam until it respects the human rights and freedom of people that live in Vietnam. And we're asking President Bush, when he goes to Vietnam this fall, to not only meet with the leaders of Vietnam, but to meet with the dissidents in Vietnam, to meet with the Buddhist monks, to meet with the Catholic priests, to demonstrate in Vietnam that you will meet with the dissidents. The same way that Ronald Reagan used to meet with the dissidents when they would go to Moscow in China. In China today, and I think it's important to focus on this, in China today there are 42 Catholic priests and bishops in jail. Today, in China, there are 4,000 to 6,000 evangelicals and house church pastors in jail. Today, in China, they have plundered Tibet. President Hu, the leader of China, was the one who came down with a crackdown in Lhasa, and he is the one who's brought back now. He's turned Lhasa into basically a dirty, dirty city. And lastly, the Muslims, the Uyghurs. My office, working with Congressman Lantos, has spoken out. Let me tell you how bold the Chinese government are. Reba Kadir, a Uyghur, a Muslim who now lives among us. 5 years ago, a congressional delegation was going to go to China and meet with her. And before they got to her, the Chinese government threw her in jail, and for 5 years, she suffered in jail. And then 6 months ago, because of the effort of the Bush administration and Congressman Lantos and myself, she got out. Reba Kadir came by to see me last month, and she had a little card with a license plate. And what the license plate number was, 4 Chinese in Fairfax County, 4 Chinese secret police had come by Reba Kadir's house and was photographing her house. Unfortunately, she had the good sense to write down the license plate numbers. And the FBI comes before my committee. We had them track it down. There were Chinese secret police in Fairfax County photographing Reba Kadir's place. And now Reba Kadir, her 3 sons have been beaten and taken away 2 months ago. And now the public security police live in her daughter's house. We in the United States as we get all fuzzy with regard to China, should also make sure that this administration and the House and the Senate speak out on behalf of human rights and religious freedom, the same way that Ronald Reagan did. And genocide is taking place today as we sit here in Darfur. Genocide is taking place in Darfur, and the one country that is blocking the UN from taking action and blocking John Bolton is the Chinese government. I led with Senator Sam Brownback the first congressional delegation to Darfur. And the Chinese have the largest embassy in Khartoum, and they are blocking by using their Security Council veto from the UN for dealing. Today, men are being killed. Antonov bombers are flying over the villages and dropping the bombs. Soviet Hind helicopters are coming in and Gatling guns and killing people. Women are being raped. 400,000 people have died. We have a moral obligation to the people in Darfur to speak out, to have a no-fly zone. Put sanctions on the leaders of the Sudan government, have absolute travel bans. We cannot stand by. The Clinton administration stood by and allowed Rwanda to take place and did nothing. The Clinton administration stood by and the UN, whereby Srebrenica people were taken away and slaughtered. And we ought not let the UN and we ought not let the West stand by and allow genocide to be taking place in Darfur today. And domestically, in our community, in Arlington, in Fairfax, in Loudoun, there are sexual trafficking activities taking place where men and women, but mainly women, are being exploited by gangs and sexually trafficked. In my bill, we're putting more FBI agents on this for Northern Virginia, more people at the Justice Department, U.S. Attorney, to prosecute the trafficking, the sexual trafficking of women in this region and around this nation. We have abolished this and spoke out about this around the world. We have to make sure that we eradicate sexual trafficking right here in the Washington, D.C. area. The last comment. Working together with my friend and colleague and buddy from so many years, Congressman Tom Davis, working with George Allen and Senator Warner, we have come together as a team. This is a team that meets once a month and sits down and talks. Not a day goes by that Tom and I don't talk on the phone and talk on the floor. What have we done for this region? What have we done, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent? What have we done? Let me just say some of the things locally so we can talk about it, and George can tell you, and Tom will tell you. We were the first area in the nation that dealt with the area of gangs. I went into the communities and talked to them, and they told me. And we pulled together with George and Tom and Senator Warner. We have the first successful task force fighting gang and gang violence in this region. And now it is the model. Congressman Davis held a hearing up in Maryland the other day with Congressman Van Hollen. We are a model for the nation because of Tom Davis, John Warner, George Allen, and myself. We now have a task force fighting gangs from here to the Shenandoah Valley. And we've also brought in the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, and the Marshal Service. And we are committed, working together. Gangs will not have a foothold in this region, and we will eradicate them.